kept quiet long enough. But what they did to Luka, that was personal.
The GOAT is about to reveal the wildest secret behind the Luka Dončić trade, and trust me, nothing you've heard so far even comes close. Today, I'm breaking down the untold story behind the Luka and Davis trade, and what I'm about to uncover will completely change the way you see this deal. Just wait until you hear how Diddy and LeBron are tied into all of this. It's insane how fast the NBA can flip. 1 minute, Luka Dončić is lighting up Dallas, dropping 40 while grinning at defenders like it's just another casual night, and the next minute, he's reportedly packing for Los Angeles. You'd think the Mavericks would be the last franchise on earth to trade away their cornerstone player. But this is the NBA, where loyalty sounds poetic until the salary cap hits and suddenly your superstar becomes an asset. When news broke that Luka Dončić had been traded to the Lakers for Anthony Davis and 2 other picks, the league didn't just react, it exploded. Every social feed turned into a war zone. Shams Charania broke the story first, and within minutes ESPN, Bleacher Report, and every basketball podcast on the planet were in meltdown mode. The internet collectively declared that Dallas had lost its mind, while everyone accused the Lakers of doing what they always do, stealing stars. And honestly, it felt surreal. But it didn't come out of nowhere. If you'd been paying attention, you could sense the tension building for months. There were whispers and front office leaks about Luka's growing influence over team decisions, quiet frustration with Jason Kidd's rotations, and those awkward post-game interviews where Luka seemed completely drained by giving the same rehearsed answers. The Kyrie Irving extension was supposed to restore balance, but the on-court chemistry never truly clicked. The Mavericks looked tired, not of Luka's brilliance, but of the politics and pressure that came with it. Still, trading him was a nuclear-level move. Because the truth is, Luka wasn't just their best player, he was the Mavericks. He carried that team through every playoff run, every clutch moment, and every mediocre roster that still managed to matter because of him. He made Dallas relevant again. Even his teammates couldn't stop praising what he brought to the floor. Derek Lively once said in an interview that Luka made everyone better simply because of how much attention he drew. Derek Jones Jr. went even deeper, saying Luka's ability to read defenses inspired everyone to raise their game. Neither of them knew it at the time, but those quotes hit differently now, like echoes of just how massive the void Luka Dončić left behind truly is.
As defenders, is it important that you now have a defensive player of the year candidate in Luka? He seems to think that he's telling us that he wants some.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
For
just wanted to
sure.
check.
The thing is, this wasn't impulsive at all. According to sources close to the Lakers front office, this deal had been quietly brewing for months, filled with behind-the-scenes calls, luxury tax calculations, and a growing sense of urgency. The Lakers were staring down the inevitable reality of life after LeBron James, and Anthony Davis wasn't exactly proving he could carry the franchise on his own. His health was inconsistent, his production dipped, and the team often looked lost whenever he wasn't on the floor. So, the Lakers did what the Lakers always do. They went fishing for the next megastar. Meanwhile, in Dallas, the mood was a strange blend of heartbreak and relief. Fans were devastated, of course. Luka was their guy, the one who made Dallas basketball matter again. But deep down, some admitted that maybe a reset was overdue. The Mavericks had been stuck in the same cycle of promising regular seasons followed by playoff heartbreaks. Maybe a bold move was the only way forward. To his credit, Anthony Davis brought championship experience, elite defense, and the aura of a proven big-market star. Paired with Derek Lively, Grant Williams, and some new rotation depth from those Lakers picks, the Mavericks front office tried to sell the narrative that this wasn't a teardown, it was a transition. And to be fair, you could kind of see the logic. Kind of. But still, trading Luka for AD felt like swapping a PlayStation 6 for a PlayStation 2 that still barely works. It raised a much deeper question. What does loyalty even mean in the NBA anymore? Luka wasn't just loyal, he built Dallas's identity. He redefined what a European superstar could represent. But loyalty doesn't balance the books, and it doesn't clean up your cap sheet. That's the side of basketball fans are finally starting to see for what it is, a business. Teams don't wait years anymore, hoping their stars figure it out. If they sense tension, they move. If the numbers stop working, they move. It's not emotional, it's math. And this Luka trade made that painfully clear. The Mavericks didn't trade him because he failed them, they traded him because the system told them it was time. The numbers added up, the timing aligned, and both sides secretly wanted a change. There's even something poetic about it. Luka wanted control, Dallas wanted structure, and in the end both got what they asked for, just not the way they imagined. Now, Luka has become the new face of the modern superstar era, calculated, controlled, and quietly powerful. What makes this trade even more symbolic is how Luka handled it. He didn't throw tantrums, drop cryptic tweets, or storm out of pressers. He just moved on. Meanwhile, Dallas is trying to adjust to life without him. Early games have shown a more balanced offense, sharper ball movement, and fewer isolation-heavy possessions. Lively looks confident, Kyrie stepping up as a leader, and even Jason Kidd seems freer with his rotations. But you can still feel the emptiness, that ghost of Luka's magic lingering over every possession. And if there's one thing this blockbuster deal made crystal clear, it's that nobody in the NBA is untouchable anymore. Not even the guy who made you believe your team could win again. But just when everyone thought the chaos had ended and the trade bomb was the grand finale, the real madness began right after, because if the trade itself was shocking, what came next was a full-blown PR disaster.
I did know that Luka was important to the fan base. I didn't quite know it to what level.
Nico Harrison, the Mavericks GM, had to walk straight into the fire, and honestly, it looked like he stepped into that press conference without realizing just how deeply Luka Dončić was loved in Dallas. He talked about long-term strategy, balance, and roster depth, but fans didn't want to hear any of that. What they heard was a man trying to justify losing the heart and soul of their franchise. And when Nico admitted that he hadn't fully understood the emotional weight Luka carried for the city, that one line made it painfully clear that the front office had no idea what they were dismantling. Because let's be real, how could they not know? Luka was Dallas. From the massive murals downtown to the sold-out home games, from his electric rookie debut to every single buzzer beater that sent the arena shaking, he wasn't just the face of the team, he was its heartbeat. So when the man running the show casually confessed that he didn't grasp the depth of that connection, fans erupted. Nico tried to stay calm and professional, leaning on logic and business jargon, but it came off cold and evasive. And that's where the Mavericks really stumbled. They completely underestimated the emotional weight of the moment. Not just the trade itself, but the rollout, the messaging, and the tone. Instead of empathy, they gave analytics. Instead of heart, they gave spreadsheets. What should have been a carefully managed transition turned into a full-blown PR disaster. Because for fans, this wasn't about salary caps, roster construction, or luxury tax flexibility. It was about losing the one player who made them believe again. Luka wasn't just a superstar, he was their symbol of hope. And when Luka's father publicly criticized the front office for handling things without honesty or transparency, it only poured gasoline on the fire. Suddenly, the Mavericks were scrambling to regain control of the narrative, but it was too late. What they forgot was that how you say something matters just as much as what you do. The PR team wanted to sound strategic, but it came across robotic and soulless. Nico's honesty about misjudging Luka's impact might have been genuine, but to the public, it sounded like a confession of failure. While all this chaos unfolded, the awkward pressers, the tone-deaf interviews, and the desperate spin, it became obvious that Dallas had hit a wall. Fans were furious, and the rest of the league was watching closely. Because trades like this don't stay contained, they ripple across the entire NBA. Once the official statement dropped, everyone had something to say. Former players weighed in, TikTok analysts exploded with theories, and even that one guy still arguing that the Mavs should have kept Porzingis chimed in. The basketball world was boiling over, waiting for the inevitable explosion. And when it came fast. LeBron James was the first big name to react, and the irony couldn't have been more poetic. This was the same man who once set the entire sports world ablaze with the decision in 2010. If anyone understood what it felt like to flip the league upside down with one move, it was LeBron. At first, he didn't even believe it was real. He admitted he had to double-check to make sure the Luka trade wasn't coming from a parody account.
Oziroma, bom rekel, kar strani nekaterih posameznikov, mogoče hidavščina celo, da to pa me osebno boli, ker mislim, da se Luka absolutno tega ni zaslužil.
But once it was confirmed, LeBron switched gears completely. The disbelief on his face turned into a knowing smirk. The kind that said he'd seen this movie before, only now he was playing a different role. Instead of being the headline, he was the one reacting to it. LeBron went on social media and posted a cryptic "Wow, this league man," followed by a thinking face emoji, and within minutes the internet was on fire again. Every sports outlet dissected his post like it was a press release from the White House. Some thought he was genuinely shocked, others swore he'd known all along and was just stirring the pot. But here's where things got interesting. People started connecting dots. Reports surfaced that LeBron had actually spoken to Luka weeks before the trade rumors even went public. Nothing official, just casual off-season conversations, but now those moments were being reinterpreted under a new light. Was LeBron recruiting behind the scenes? Was this part of a longer Lakers chess move? Whatever the truth was, LeBron wasn't denying anything. In fact, he played it perfectly, cool, vague, and just mysterious enough to keep the story alive. Then came the real twist. He followed the Mavericks' official Instagram page right after the announcement, sparking an entirely new wave of conspiracy theories. Some said it was respect, others said it was trolling, and a few even claimed he was trying to show solidarity with Luka. Whatever his motive, it worked. The focus shifted from the trade itself to LeBron's reaction. Once again, he had managed to make the story orbit around him. And in a way, that's what made this whole situation so wild. Luka Dončić being traded to the Lakers should have been the headline of the decade. But somehow, LeBron turned even that into a subplot of his own legacy.
I was out with my family at dinner and got the news, and the first time I heard it, I thought it was for sure fake. That was a hoax. People messing around, whatever.
He started talking about how he'd always dreamed of playing alongside Luka, calling it one of those once-in-a-generation alignments. The moment he said it, the internet split right down the middle. Some fans were thrilled, saying, "Of course he's hyped, it's LeBron and Luka on the same team, that's insane." But others weren't buying it. They thought LeBron was just doing what he always does, playing the media game like a pro, saying the right things to keep the spotlight polished and the headlines positive. Still, beneath all the PR polish, there was a flicker of something real in his voice. Maybe it was admiration, maybe nostalgia, that sense of passing the torch to a new superstar who reminded him of himself. You could tell that even LeBron, the master strategist of modern basketball, was genuinely excited to see what this partnership could become. Meanwhile, back in Dallas, the mood couldn't have been more different. The city felt hollow. Dirk Nowitzki looked like someone had just told him they were tearing down the American Airlines Center and replacing it with a Starbucks. The man who had built his own legendary career there, who knew exactly what it meant to give everything to that city, couldn't hide the heartbreak. His silence said more than any press quote ever could. Fans were devastated, still processing the reality that their hero, the kid who once carried Dallas on his back, was gone. What was supposed to be a moment of excitement for Los Angeles felt like a funeral for Dallas basketball.
Luka is one of my favorite players in the NBA today. From the simple fact of the way I play the game is exactly how I love the way he plays the game.
The guy who built the Mavericks culture from the ground up was now standing on the sidelines, watching it all get flipped upside down for a trade that felt more like a spreadsheet calculation than a basketball decision. Dirk didn't have to say much. His expression said it all. During that short interview, you could practically hear the disappointment hiding between his pauses. For Mavericks fans, that moment hit like a punch to the gut, because if there's one person who embodies loyalty and perseverance in a single jersey, it's Dirk Nowitzki. He stayed when others would have walked away, carried the franchise through its darkest years, and gave the city a championship when no one thought it was possible. Seeing him so visibly heartbroken was like watching the soul of Dallas itself take a hit. Then came Kyrie Irving's reaction. Calm, measured, but layered with emotion. He spoke softly about how tough it was to lose Luka, describing it as losing a brother, and you could feel the sincerity in his words. But in true Kyrie fashion, he also pivoted to perspective. He welcomed Anthony Davis to Dallas, talking about new balance, fresh opportunity, and the need to embrace change in a league that never stops evolving. It was philosophical, almost poetic, the way Kyrie framed it, acknowledging the pain of the loss while trying to manifest something positive from it. He didn't sound bitter, just introspective, like someone who understood that the NBA is as much about evolution as it is about legacy. And in that moment, you could see Dallas trying to convince itself of the same thing, that maybe somehow, there was still light on the other side of losing Luka Dončić.
Leaving that day to travel back, and my phone just starts blowing up left and right, and then I kind of looked on social media, and I think I was as shocked and surprised as everybody was.
To tell Kyrie was doing everything he could to hold the team together while keeping his emotions in check. There was a quiet strength in the way he spoke, steady tone, careful words, like he knew the locker room was watching, and he couldn't afford to let the cracks show. The fans noticed it too. Half the comments under that clip were basically saying, "Yeah, Kyrie's hurting, but he's trying to stay calm." It was one of those rare moments where everyone, fans, analysts, even rivals, could see the human side of the game. And then came Giannis Antetokounmpo, who somehow turned the entire conversation into a cultural moment. When reporters asked him about Luka moving to Los Angeles, he just smiled, that trademark Giannis grin that always hides something deeper, and said, "This is basketball, not just business." But sometimes the business reminds you who's really in charge. The room went silent for a second. He wasn't trying to make headlines, but he did anyway. Giannis went on to say that Luka's move symbolized how the league had changed, how players no longer belonged to cities the way they used to, how even the brightest stars could be traded overnight if the math demanded it. He called Luka a brother, and said Los Angeles just got a little more dangerous, but you could tell there was a tinge of sadness in his tone, The kind that comes from knowing the soul of the game is slowly shifting away from loyalty and toward leverage. That one quote ended up everywhere, on ESPN, Twitter, and every sports talk show, because it wasn't just about Luka's trade anymore. Giannis had said out loud what every player, fan, and executive was quietly thinking. The NBA will always find a way to remind you that emotion is optional, but business is permanent.
So it's still a grieving process right now. Miss my hermano. We had a lot of time together. Keith too, and Maxi.
Could tell Kyrie was doing everything he could to hold the team together while keeping his emotions in check. There was a quiet strength in the way he spoke, steady tone, careful words, like he knew the locker room was watching, and he couldn't afford to let the cracks show. The fans noticed it too. Half the comments under that clip were basically saying, yeah, Kyrie's hurting, but he's trying to stay calm. It was one of those rare moments where everyone, fans, analysts, even rivals, could see the human side of the game. And then came Giannis Antetokounmpo, who somehow turned the entire conversation into a cultural moment. When reporters asked him about Luka moving to Los Angeles, he just smiled, that trademark Giannis grin that always hides something deeper, and said, this is basketball, not just business. But sometimes the business reminds you who's really in charge. The room went silent for a second. He wasn't trying to make headlines, but he did anyway. Giannis went on to say that Luka's move symbolized how the league had changed, how players no longer belong to cities the way they used to, how even the brightest stars could be traded overnight if the math demanded it. He called Luka a brother, and said Los Angeles just got a little more dangerous, but you could tell there was a tinge of sadness in his tone. The kind that comes from knowing the soul of the game is slowly shifting away from loyalty and toward leverage. That one quote ended up everywhere, on ESPN, Twitter, and every sports talk show, because it wasn't just about Luka's trade anymore. Giannis had said out loud what every player, fan, and executive was quietly thinking. The NBA will always find a way to remind you that emotion is optional, but business is permanent.
You know what I want? I want Luka to the Lakers. I want Jokic to the Knicks. I want all the Europeans to go to all the big markets.
And coming from a player who's been through his fair share of trade rumors, that hit differently. Jaylen Brown's reasoning made perfect sense though. He said, it's not just about losing Luka's numbers. It's about losing the identity he gave Dallas. That single line went viral for days, not only because fans agreed with him, but because it sounded like something straight out of a sports movie trailer. It captured exactly what everyone was feeling, that Luka Dončić wasn't just a player, he was the Mavericks' heartbeat, their symbol, their swagger. Meanwhile, Austin Reeves suddenly found himself caught in the middle of the storm.
That might be like one of the worst trades of all time.
He had talked before about what he called the white guy stigma in the NBA, how players like him or Luka often get boxed into certain stereotypes until they start dominating enough to break them. So when Austin Reeves spoke about the trade, it wasn't just a basketball take, it was a statement about representation and perception. He said the league needed to start judging players by what they do, not what they look like, and that message hit hard. It was bold, honest, and deeply personal, a rare moment of vulnerability that added another dimension to how people viewed the Luka trade, showing it wasn't just about rosters or stats, but about identity and respect. And then, because the internet never misses a chance to get weird, Flea, yes, that Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, appeared on the same podcast with Austin Reeves and admitted he completely lost it when he heard the news.
Everybody be like, I got the white boy. I'm like, it's gonna be hell. Like,